What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to T3G. My name is Dalibor. This is App Spotlight, and today we're going to be talking about how to figure out where your stuff is coming right up. Come on. Alright, now this is not the first time we've done a video like this, so we're going to get right into it. Previously we've done, always forget the name of it, Space Sniffer, always forget the name of it for some reason. Disk Info for Android. I believe we also talked about JDisk Report. If we haven't, that's one I got to do still, but I'm pretty sure we did that. That was for Mac. And now we're going to talk about WinDirStat, Windows Directory Statistics. But it's a weird combination name. I don't know why it's called that, but that's what it's called. Pretty much straightforward. You open it, you pick a drive, and it's just gonna do it. There's no complicated setup process. So we're gonna run this and speed up this process because it's gonna take a minute. We're just gonna check C, because what I end up having to do is figure out where all my space has gone on C, because something inevitably ends up saving to C when it's not supposed to be. And then I just end up saying, what do you mean I'm out of space? I don't use the C drive. So then you gotta figure out where stuff is. Let's go ahead. Alright, so that did not take too long. I did notice one thing. There's a little RAM usage indicator on the bottom there, and it was never using more than 100. Now it's at 107.4 megs of RAM, so it's not really intensive on the system, which is nice. Besides, of course, the disk itself, it's going to be checking where stuff is. So now, similar to, let's maximize this and get a bigger version of this graph. Similar to Space Sniffer, similar to Disk Info on Android, it's got these color-coded, sized blocks, I don't know what else to call them, that are indicating what the files are. So when you mouse over it, it tells you what the file is. So this is the hibernation file, which is 12 gigabytes. And oh boy, I would love to know how to turn this dang thing off. Last change 2/21/19. So it is current, and I still don't know how to turn this off. And that's really getting annoying. Page file, that's interesting. I have 32 gigs of system memory, and apparently I've also got 4.8 gigs, 1.7 gigs of page file. Now, the page file, if you don't know, is basically converting part of the disk into RAM to try to speed things up. This is really an antiquated process because RAM is way faster than it used to be, and using the disk itself as RAM could potentially harm the disk because SSDs have a maximum write lifespan. So if you are suddenly writing a ton of stuff to the disk, this could come up with issues. So I'm gonna definitely have to turn that off. So what I'm seeing as far as really cool features, it shows you the last change for everything. So let's say if we go by oldest, let's see, looks like 2007. Where's this at? Where's this at? That's the Windows installer package. I don't think I can mess with that particularly. How about by the largest? Now the files here is just in the C drive, so in the top level folder. So we've got 17 gigs, and most of that is the hibernation file and the page file. So we can close that. I don't care about that anymore. Program files using about 15 gigs. 15 gigs in user. Let's take a look. Obviously, my account's using the most, as there are no other accounts. And then it looks like app data is the one. Whoo, look at that. 14 gigabytes. See, this is the kind of thing that you don't think about it very much, right? So it's in local. You got a gig in packages. What's this? Well, now this is where it gets dicey if you're not familiar with system. Hello?
Hello?
What's up?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, what's up? Now this is where it can get dicey if you are not familiar with what things are and what things can be messed with and can't be messed with. Personally, I do not know what the packages folder is. It looks like it might be related to multiple things. Microsoft Store photos. This might be, I don't know if this is the app itself. I don't know what's in there. That's 1.6 gigabytes that's gonna stay there until the end of time. Looks like we've got about 1,000 gigabytes in OneDrive. What is it at? Settings, 800 in settings. Yeah, that's probably, I don't know what that is. It's supposed to be an IP address. That doesn't look like an IP address. Whatever, maybe a version number. Regardless, I don't know what those things do, so far, we've given up about 4 gigs. Binary Fortress software. Oh, Display Fusion. Yeah, I'm gonna leave that alone because I like my Display Fusion. That's probably cache files and things like that from that program. That switches my backgrounds and gives me double taskbars. independent taskbars. We'll definitely review that one of these days. And we got 1 gig in Mozilla cache. So we could probably clear this, but I mean, it's a gig. It's a gig. I'm not using that much of the system. It doesn't like me trying to get into that folder apparently, so we're gonna leave that alone for sure. So yeah, just a bunch of different, they're just cache files. We could probably delete those, but I'm not even gonna mess with it. So again, this is mostly just stuff that adds up, right? There's no one 9 gig file. It's just a bunch of little files, and that's kind of how Windows works, right? It's kind of how computers work. Again, 2.7 gigs in Adobe. Now this is where I've always gotten in trouble. In Adobe, they have scratch drives or scratch folders, scratch disks. That's the word. And that's where they're like temporary, autosave stuff goes. And yeah, this looks like a bunch of the files that I've used when editing on this computer, which has only been a couple times. So I imagine on my rendering computer, that's way larger, which is why I always have to keep an eye on it, because I always forget about those, and then I have to deal with the fact that I'm out of storage. So let's see. The kind of easiest way to look for this stuff is, right, these two are the largest files, obviously, but if we go over here, Overwatch. Looks like Overwatch taking a good chunk of storage, where we got 21 gigabytes of data. Just a bunch of little files, and I don't know what any of these mean. It's not like it's the installer and I can get rid of it because that's already installed. No, it's probably patch files and all that stuff after you originally install it. But overall, I dig this program, right? You have DLLs, you get 24 gigabytes of DLLs. But that's Windows for you, right? DLLs, dynamic link libraries, run everything. That's where all the reference files are. That's Windows. Windows is basically run on that, system files, and executables. The top 3 items in this breakdown. So yeah, that makes perfect sense. But the nice thing about this is that you can find anything. You could find any large chunk of unexpected data. Sometimes this happens. I've seen viruses in the past start just writing just constant copies of files inside Windows folder. When you install initially out of the box, like let's say you do a fresh installation, you have about 20 gigs, and that's what this folder is, right? It's just the operating system and all the necessary files for that. So if you ever look at the Windows folder and it's 40, 50, 60, 100 gigabytes, there's an issue that you really need to address. It's little things like that. It's things to keep in mind, and that's why this kind of software is very, very useful, especially when it comes to finding out where your stuff is. Now, obviously, I have separate data drives, so for me, it'd be way more useful to try to, bring down the size of this 1.8 terabyte drive. I've only got 91 gigs free. I can definitely poke around in there and figure out what I need to get rid of. I've got to offload stuff. There's stuff that I'm sitting on that I haven't used in a long time. This last change column I think could make a huge difference in trying to organize and free up space for sure. But that's going to be it for this one. Just a quick review of a pretty straightforward program. Not a lot of bells and whistles. It's kind of like an old school Windows 95 interface, but who cares? It does the job, and it does it pretty well, pretty efficiently. So I've got no qualms with this. I think this is definitely a great utility to have on hand. I think I particularly still prefer Space Sniffer for kind of the quick sniffing around and figuring out where stuff is. This was a little slower in my experience, and maybe I'll poke around in Space Sniffer and see if it's got more options as far as what it displays. Maybe it'll show me that last change option. But yeah, that's going to be it for this one. Thank you for watching. Make sure you hit like, subscribe. If you have any questions about this app, if you have any other utilities or apps that you think I should check out, make sure you drop that down below. For the question of the day, of course I'll write it down, but I do want to also say it on video. What is your favorite Windows utility app or program? Drop that down below. I'd love to know. I'd love to find out what people use in their day-to-day. Thanks again for watching. We'll see you in the next one.